Hey everybody, I am back and I'm here to give you my what have we learned for week 7. Now, last week I did a what have we learned just text format. Obviously, I wasn't feeling all that well, and we can thank the Yankees sucking very bad, and then, of course, the Niners getting blown out. And yeah, it was just, bad week, so I had to type all that out. But I'm back, refreshed, rejuvenated, and extremely impressed with my picks for week 7. As last week I went 4-10. This week 11-2. So back on that winning trail. So without further ado, I'm going to give you my my opinion on what we learned through all 13 games with all 26 teams that competed on last Thursday, this past Sunday, and on Monday. So starting with the Thursday night game between the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers. What we learned about the Seattle Seahawks is this: Russell Wilson's great at home. He sucks on the road. But to his defense, he did play against a stout defense at their house, and his receivers definitely let him down. There were at least 5 drops in that game. One of them could have at least given him a touchdown. Turbin, who dropped that. And just on top of that, his receiving core definitely let him down in that game. And what we also learned about them positively is, that defense is for real. They went toe-to-toe with a division rival whose defense, they almost have a mirror defense. It's almost like they're playing against each other in practice. But Seattle's defense is very stout. They're very physical. And if that team is going to go very far, they need Russell Wilson to step it up on the road. But that defense can hold it down. What we also learned is what we already knew. Marshawn Lynch is a beast. Beast mode. Skittles. This man is as advertised. He gashed the 49ers yet again for another 100-yard game, which is a rarity against that defense. But he runs hard. I mean, him and Deshaun Golson were going toe-to-toe in that first quarter. And the run game and that defense can hold this team down. And what I mean hold it down is basically keep them firmly in a playoff hunt. But it's all contingent on that quarterback play and those receivers, because those receivers went non-existent and they had hands like frying pans. But they're 4-3, and like I said, it's all contingent upon how Russell Wilson does on the road for the rest of the 2012 season. That's going to decide and determine whether they're an above 500 team or at 500 or less. So that's Seattle. What we know about the 49ers is that offensively, as far as the passing game, still some issues. Alex has not had the best 2 games, although he was the winning quarterback in this contest, but bit of a regression. Harbaugh brought to attention that maybe his receivers were getting mugged a little too physically, but another story for another day. But I think he got to the point where Alex was trying to do way too much, and he got out of his comfort zone. And if this team is going to be a legit Super Bowl contender, they need Alex to play smarter, like he did in games in weeks 1 and 2. In the games against the Bills and the Jets. Got to play a lot smarter. Can't play like he did against the Giants or the Vikings. And that red zone interception, that was quite possibly one of the worst throws I've ever seen him make in the red zone. And he's not bad in the red zone. That was only his 2nd career interception in the red zone. So, once again, quarterback issues. So, but that's something to work on. It's they're 5-2, so obviously there are things they are doing well, and what they are doing well is, like I said about Seattle, the running game. Frank Gore is as advertised, just like Marshawn Lynch. He just gashed Seattle's vaunted run defense, and that's a rarity to do to them too. And if you think about it, Frank Gore's career over his career, he has his best games against the Seahawks. He's run for 200-plus yards on them. He really just shows out against the Seahawks when he plays them. Another great thing is the Niners special teams. and Andy Lee got the NFC Special Teams Player of the Week. And if you watch this game, he definitely was a huge factor in the position battle, like the field position battle. And when the Niners were up 13-6 on the Seahawks' final drive, he laid a punt that pinned them at their own 11-yard line. So when you have great special teams like that and you have a stout defense, you know, you're not having to rely on the offense as much, you can go far. And this is what they did last season. So, you know, business as usual for them. Next up, Tennessee at Buffalo. Now, I picked this one wrong, and I almost got it right, but Ryan Fitzpatrick is a serious problem for the Buffalo Bills. They gave this guy all this money, and he hasn't done jack squat since. He got rich and stopped trying. That defense got rich and stopped trying. Dave Wannstedt, rent, do not buy, because I don't see you making it to the end of the season with that atrocious defense. This is a defense that has given up 30 or more points to the Titans, and 2 straight weeks of giving up 40 or more to the Patriots and the 49ers. This was supposed to be the key ingredient to get the Bills over the hump. They bring in Mario Williams, you know, who was the big fish that they reeled in during free agency, which I said that during the free agent season, that this was a big deal, and they had this front four that was gonna really terrorize the AFC East. It's gonna be a force to be reckoned with, and you thought that they would after they showed the resolve that they had against the Cardinals at Arizona. But I guess that was just a mirage, because that defense is ass, absolutely ass. And Wannstedt, like I said, man, your seat is no longer hot, man. That seat is melted. Like, I don't see you, like I said, I don't really see him making it to the rest of the season. If he's not gone by week 12, it'll be a shock. But they put up points. It's just Fitzpatrick, he finds the greatest ways to ruin the momentum. And he threw a costly interception near the end of the game, which allowed the Titans to march down the field and steal the win from them. So, but the crazy thing is, they're only maybe a game and a half, 2 games out of the AFC East. And the AFC East is looking very weak right now. So craziest thing about them is that they still have a shot to win that division as of right now. Go figure that out. Tennessee, that Pittsburgh game woke them up, apparently, and there's not a greater way to get a running back who's had a tremendously crappy season so far, that has been overpaid. There's not a greater way to get him back on the track than to go up against that crappy defense of the Buffalo Bills. Chris Johnson looked like the Chris Johnson of 2009. I swear that they built a time machine, put the Chris Johnson that we've been seeing this season in the basement, just tied him up, locked him up, and brought in the Chris Johnson of 2009 and brought him in the game. Because the holes that he was able to run through was ridiculous. And if they can get him on the track, you know, if that one game can, you know, springboard them into him getting on track to being that running back that he was, then the Titans will be fine. And Matt Hasselbeck has been doing a great job of holding that team together when Jake Locker went down, because, well, he's won 2 straight. He beat Pittsburgh, and he engineered a fourth quarter comeback and beat Buffalo. So that team that looked dead in the water, the team that was giving up 30 or more points in 5 straight games, although they did give up over 30 points in this game, but they won. They're back in it. They're not gonna catch the Texans, but at least the season's looking a little bit better for them. So that's the Titans. Next up was the NFC East battle between the Washington Redskins and the defending Super Bowl champion New York Giants. I picked the Giants to win this one, even though I knew that the Redskins were probably their most peskiest foe, and the Redskins swept them last season. But I just felt like Eli's fourth quarter magic was going to happen again, and it did in this game. So, got this pick right. What we know about the Redskins is that good news is RG3 is as advertised. This kid showed no fear going up against the Giants. He played them extremely well and almost won the game for him, when he connected with Santana Moss on that beautiful touchdown pass. Bad news for the Redskins is that they're going to be without their top pass-catching tight end, Fred Davis, who ruptured his Achilles. So he's done for the season. Another bit of good news is that they're getting Chris Cooley back, who is a fan favorite of the Redskins, and he knows that system. So good news, bad news, good news. Bad news is they also lost too. But RG3 and Alfred Morris, those two rookies, have given the Redskins as a franchise and their fans a beacon of hope that that team can actually go far with those two running the offense. And they get a Rock Poe, and it's another bit of bad news. They may be without Lyndon Fletcher, who pretty much is the heart and soul of that defense and the Iron Man of the NFL. And I think that streak might come to an end. He got hurt in that game as well. But like I was saying about RG3 and Alfred Morris, that team is in good hands if those two continue to play as well as they have. And RG3 is looking like the franchise QB that the Redskins have been sorely needing. So that's the Redskins. What more can we say about the Giants? They live for drama. They love the last minute dramatics of a game. And Eli Manning is at his best when the game is on the line. He is the clutchest, if that's even a word, the clutchest quarterback in the NFL right now. I've said that, and I stand behind it. This man knows how to get it done. And he did it with Victor Cruz. What we say about the Giants, Ahmad Bradshaw and Tom Coughlin, they had a tiff going back and forth. And hell, even Bradshaw smacked Victor Cruz upside the head because he felt like he came up short on a block that could have sprung him downfield. So I don't know what Bradshaw's issue is, and I don't know what the whole issue between those two are, but you're not going to get very far if your starting running back and your head coach are butting heads. So outside of that, they found a way to win again. Eli Manning to Victor Cruz on a 77-yard touchdown catch. And they're at 5-2, and they're sitting atop the NFC East right now. And the next team I'll talk about, the Dallas Cowboys, with what happened with them in their game against Carolina, that division is theirs for the taking. So, moving forward, we'll talk about NFC South divisional matchup between the Saints and the Buccaneers. What we know about the Saints is that offense looks like the offense of last season. Drew Brees was masterful yet again. 4 touchdown passes in the first half alone. He threw a touchdown pass to Joe Morgan. Look this guy up. YouTube him if you need to. This catch and this touchdown, how he was able to stay on his feet without his knees touching the ground, was a thing of beauty. So check that out. But what we also know about them is their defense still sucks ass. Spagnuolo, man, dude, what's up? Like, when is defense going to actually look like an actual defense? Because the Buccaneers, they were a goal line touchdown away from actually tying the game up and almost beating you. That Saints defense has been crap since week 1, since Greg Williams was at the helm against the Niners. That defense has not looked like a defense that will strike fear in any team's hearts. But they did have one incredible sequence when Vincent Jackson caught a deep pass, and it looked like he was going to the house. Malcolm Jenkins runs him down, tackles him near the goal line, and in 4 plays, stopped the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from getting in the end zone. That defense was getting gashed left and right, but that one stop was pretty much the factor in how they won that game. So they can at least hang their heads on that. But outside of that, defense is terrible. And I guess a bit of good news for them is that they're getting Joe Vitt back, their assistant head coach, who was on timeout because of Bounty Gate. He was out for 6 games, and that's come and gone, and now he's going to be at the helm. Which, what a great way for him to come back, because now he's going to have to worry about the Denver Broncos. So, good luck to Spagnuolo on that defense going against Peyton Manning, and good luck to Vitt. So, what we know about the Buccaneers is this. They can beat up on tin can teams, but they can't beat teams that they should beat. Now, the Saints have a sub 500 record, but they're the Saints. They're the defending NFC South champions. They've won a Super Bowl a couple seasons ago, and they pretty much have been running the South next to Atlanta. Tampa Bay needs to beat teams like that in order to be considered legit. You know, they beat the Carolina Panthers, who suck. They beat the Kansas City Chiefs, who absolutely suck. But it's the teams they need to beat that they don't beat. And this is one of them. We know that Josh Freeman and Vincent Jackson have a great connection. We also know that their defense is absolutely atrocious as well. Like I said, Drew Brees cooked them for 4 touchdown passes in the first half, folks. The first half. And I don't see them going very far if they can't beat the big name caliber teams. So they're trying to watch that 4-12 season out of their mouths, but they still have remnants of what they were last season. So good luck with that. Now, the next game, like I spoke about when I talked about the Redskins and Giants, the Dallas Cowboys at the Carolina Panthers. And what we know about the Dallas Cowboys is this. When they look good, they look good. When they look bad, they look bad. Which means that they look like an 8-8 team. They looked bad in this game, but they won. And what makes it even worse is that they're going to be without their budding star linebacker, Sean Lee, who hurt his big toe. And people can make fun of that and laugh at that all you want to, but he thought it was a you know, not a bad injury. They did an MRI on it, tore ligaments in it. He's done for the year. And that, my friends, is a huge blow to that defense because, yeah, they have DeMarcus Ware, but DeMarcus Ware is more of a pass rusher. Sean Lee was their 3-down linebacker who can play the pass, who can play the run, who can go sideline to sideline. This was their Urlacher, their Willis, so to speak. You know, he was the rising star for that defense, no pun intended. And now he's gone. And they really don't have anybody behind them. Yeah, they have Bruce Carter, but he doesn't make the plays like Sean Lee does. You know, Dan Connor, who was the former Panther, old man, he ain't going to get it done. Now they're bringing in Ernie Sims, who is a tremendous bust, considering how high he was drafted. And this is team number 4, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe team number 3 or 4, but he's a journeyman at this point. Hell, he's been out of the league for the first 7 weeks, so nobody wanted him anyway. So, but what we learned about Dallas is that they play down to their competition. You watched them play against the Giants from week 1. You thought that they would have their shit together. Then you watched the game against the Seahawks and you realized that they still suck. Then you watched them play the Buccaneers, play down to their level, still won. Then you watched them play the Bears, and they sucked. You watched them play the Ravens. They played the Ravens hard, tough, and still found a way to lose. Now they played the Panthers, who absolutely suck, and they looked like they sucked along with them, but they just sucked a little bit less. And they also got the benefit of a BS horse collar penalty that was called on the Panthers that gave them 15 extra yards in the fourth quarter, inside the 2-minute warning, which gave them a field goal to put them up by 5. So, Dallas Cowboys, good luck, because without Sean Lee, the middle of that field is going to be wide open, and you have the Giants coming up. So you already know Eli is going to be feasting on the middle of that field. What we know about the Carolina Panthers is this. It was all good just a year ago, wasn't it, Cam? Cam Newton has regressed big time. He is not making the passes. He threw a terrible... Now, I talked about Alex Smith making a terrible red zone throw that got picked off. Cam Newton's right up there with him. This pass, he threw right in the middle of the field, in the goal, or right in the middle of the end zone. There was nobody there but Morris Claiborne. It was terrible. Then on top of that, they've gotten away from their run game. I mean, you've given millions of dollars to Jonathan Stewart, D'Angelo Williams. You bring in Mike Tolbert, and you don't use the running game. Huh? But now they're sitting at 1-5, and somebody had to fall on the sword, and this time it was their general manager, who I know Panthers fans all over the damn country have been celebrating this moment ever since this GM decided to give Jake Delhomme millions of dollars after a 6-turnover performance against the Arizona Cardinals in the 2008 playoffs. So, but having said all that, Cam Newton looks terrible. And the way he carries himself after a loss, he's still a kid. He's a kid. And everybody's like, yeah, he's young, but no, don't give me that. Because if you watch the NFL in the 90s, in the early 2000s, there were guys the same age as him that carried themselves a hell of a lot better. They had more maturity. Cam Newton loves the attention. He loves the spotlight, but he does not like the responsibility of taking a loss. That is what separates you from being a great athlete from a great leader. They need you as a leader, and you're not showing it. Steve Smith already got in your face about how you pouted and whined about being pulled in the game where y'all were blown out by the Giants. And then here you are, post-game, after losing to Dallas, pretty much pouting again. That team's not going to make it very far if their signal caller, their general, is a crybaby. So, good luck with that. Moving on, in this game, everybody was saying was a preview of quite possibly the AFC Championship game. This turned into a one-sided, thorough beatdown, straight-up ass-whooping. The game I'm referring to is the Baltimore Ravens at the Houston Texans. Now, Baltimore's defense was without Ray Lewis, he's gone for the season, Ladarius Webb, gone for the season, but they get back Terrell Suggs. And it didn't matter at all. They gave up 43 points to the Texans. 43 points. They've been getting gashed by the Chiefs, the Cowboys, and the Houston Texans saw an opportunity where they finally had a chance to knock down and knock out the Baltimore Ravens, and they did it. John Harbaugh had never lost to the Texans since he's been head coach. He was 6-0 going into that game. He has one loss against them now, and it was a huge one. It was a major one. This one was a no contest. This was along the lines of a parent having to come up to your school from work because you've been messing up. This is the kind of ass whooping this was. And Baltimore has a lot of problems because, yeah, we know the defense has been having issues, but where the hell is that offense? It's a case of good Flacco, bad Flacco. When bad Flacco shows up, oh, they're atrocious. Now, he has some passes batted, but at the same time, man, they were getting abused by that defense. And then their defense, of course, was getting abused by Houston's offense. Matt Schaub, Arian Foster, Owen Daniels, Kevin Walter. That whole offense was just cooking. And J.J. Watt has made his case for Defensive Player of the Year. More batted passes. He is a badass, folks. They're moving along without even Brian Cushing being on that field, and that's scary. Because that Brian Cushing's a great linebacker, and they're still kicking ass and taking names without him. But Houston has thoroughly planted itself as the AFC team to beat in a conference that really doesn't have that many strong contenders. Like, it's Houston, and then take your pick. Because there's nobody that's looking strong in the AFC like Houston. So, Baltimore, good luck this season. You're going to need it. You guys look vulnerable as hell right now. Houston's doing what Houston does. They're beating ass, and they're going into the bye week feeling very confident about themselves. So, next game is a rematch between two quarterbacks that faced off against each other in the BCS Fiesta Bowl. Talking Brandon Whedon and the Cleveland Browns versus Andrew Luck and the Indianapolis Colts. What we learned about Cleveland is that Whedon needs receivers. His receivers suck. Hey, Greg Little made a great catch, which shocked the world because Greg Little doesn't make catches, even though he's a wide receiver. But he did make a great catch in the back of the end zone. I'll give him that. But Josh Gordon really let down Whedon. He had a touchdown catch in his hands and completely dropped it in the fourth quarter with about 6.5 minutes left. That could have put them ahead. So what we learned about Cleveland is that they just can never put it together. And that's their 11th straight road loss, which is tied a franchise record. What is it about their losses being like streaks, and like they lost 12 straight, they lost 12 straight. They finally broke that streak to not set a new record. Now they're 11 games. They're losing. Excuse me. Let me say that again. They've lost 11 straight road games, which is a franchise record. Tied it. So they have an opportunity to break that record. They're just a franchise in futility. Holmgren has been said that he's basically he's no longer going to be the GM there. So they're going to have somebody new stepping in, which Pat Shurmur has to be concerned because he may not be around for that. He may not be around to watch that team grow or stall or regress next season. The Browns are the Browns. The Browns gonna Brown is what I like to call it. What we learned about the Colts is that, hey, Andrew Luck didn't get the ball in the end zone with his hands, but he used his feet. He's definitely the rookie that the Colts knew that they were getting out of him, and he's making the plays necessary. There's really not much to say about the Colts. I mean, they're obviously in a new era with Andrew Luck, so that's a team in progress. But hey, he's already tied the number of wins Peyton had when he was a rookie, so there you have it. Next game, Green Bay Packers at the St. Louis Rams. What we learned about Green Bay is that good news is that they're looking like the Green Bay Packers that everybody thought that they were going to be coming into the season. Bad news is they're going to be without one of their defensive star players who was pretty much the heart and soul of that defense, in Charles Woodson, who broke his collarbone and is looking to be out about 6 weeks. Now, this guy was their gadget man. He played pass coverage, he can play the run, and he was a great blitzer. So now, that secondary is going to have to step up majorly. But what we also learned is that Aaron Rodgers is back in mid-season form. He's back in his MVP form. Like, he is dissecting and destroying defenses like he did against the Houston Texans last week. And he did it again against the Rams, who are not an easy win at home. Not an easy win in St. Louis. And he dissected them too. What we learned about the Rams is that, Bradford, what kind of throw was that? Tried to hit somebody deep, and it was severely underthrown. We learned that defense definitely got gashed. And they were definitely made to look the fool. Jordy Nelson had a field day on that secondary. Aaron Rodgers had a field day on that secondary. And that was supposed to be their strength. And if you watched their last few games, you saw that they were actually a competent secondary. We learned that, they're still the Rams. But they actually, they took this loss. But they're competitive. They're still an improvement over what they were last season and the season before. But Bradford's not a deep pass, he's not a long bomber. He needs surgical, short, intermediate passing lanes and passing windows. But he doesn't have the receivers for that. I mean, other than Brandon Gibson, he needs Amendola back. Bradford really can't move that offense without Amendola. And it's painfully obvious to see that. He's a totally different quarterback with him, and he's a totally different quarterback without him. So, there's your Rams. Next up, Arizona Cardinals at the Minnesota Vikings. What we learned about Arizona is that, once again, that offensive line is a sieve. A turnstile, a matador. They can't protect for crap. And John Skelton found that out the hard way. They got some good production out of Stevens Howling. I guess that's some good news for them. But the QB play and that offensive line play is going to be the reason that they're going to be, at best, a 7-9 team. That secondary, or not the secondary, excuse me, that offensive line, man, will get anybody killed back there. I don't care if you're Romo, I don't care if you're Rodgers, I don't care if you're a good scrambling quarterback. That offensive line will get you murked. What we learned about the Minnesota Vikings is that Christian Ponder is regressing, but Adrian Peterson is progressing. He's going back into mid-season form, or his mid-career form. Him and Chris Johnson, they definitely had their wake-up games this week. And Adrian Peterson carried that team figuratively. And literally, he carried that team to a victory. 23 carries, over 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. And that defense, Minnesota's defense, Harrison Smith, rookie out of Notre Dame, had a pick 6, his first interception of his career. Got 6 points off of it, and that was the major factor in them winning. It definitely wasn't Christian Ponder, who made some really poor decisions with the ball. 2 interceptions in this game. When he came, like these last 2 games, he's throwing picks. When he went pretty much the entire season without throwing an interception. Now he's got, I think, 4, somewhere around 4 now. But if they can get consistency out of him and have Adrian Peterson running the way he has, then that team has a good shot of winning the NFC North. Next up, battle of the AFC East. Belichick versus Ryan. New York Jets and New England Patriots. What we learned about the Jets is that they're not dead yet, but they did find a great way to lose. What we learned about them is that their rookie receiver has definitely got to learn how to get it done in the clutch, because this is a game they should have won. Had Stephen Hill caught that pass that Mark Sanchez hit him on right before the end of regulation, there was a good chance that they would have went up by 4 instead of having to go up by 3 to tie the game, or go up by 3, which gave Brady an opportunity to march down the field to get Gostowski in position to kick the field goal to send it into overtime. Now, had Mark Sanchez held on to the ball when he got sacked, they would have punted the ball, maybe have held the Patriots defensively, maybe not, but the game would have ended on a sack fumble. But what we learned about the Jets is that they're fighting. And they've been fighting ever since they played the Houston Texans. So they're showing everybody that that team is not as bad as they looked in the beginning of the season. So maybe they have a puncher's chance, but like I said, that AFC East is wide open. I mean, there's not a runaway team in that division right now. So they're still in the middle of the mix. What we learned about the New England Patriots is that, man, these guys suck as a defense in the fourth quarter. They almost gave this game away. Tom Brady really isn't that clutch. Who was it? Michael Smith. Numbers never lie. Actually had proof that Tom Brady really isn't all that clutch. It's good numbers, but he really isn't at this point, and neither is that defense in the fourth quarter. Like I stated, we learned that Welker is a part of that offense. We learned that, hey, they've got offensively, they got some weapons, as we all know, but it's really about that defense. That defense has almost let them down again. And like I said, that AFC East is wide open. Tom Brady is not scaring anybody. He's not scaring teams like he used to. They're going at him head to head with no fear at this point. So we learned about the Patriots. Next game, and I'm going to just talk about this very quickly because both of these teams are just... Jacksonville Jaguars at the Oakland Raiders. We learned that the Jaguars are always good at finding ways to lose. They're just natural losers at this point. Now they're going to be without Maurice Jones-Drew, who they fear might have a Lisfranc injury, which would definitely end his season and give me a reason to drop him, which I did in my fantasy league. Blaine Gabbert, I don't know if this is good news or bad news, depending on how you look at it as a Jags fan. Hurt his non-throwing shoulder, which means he could be back. But watching Chad Henne play, you see why Miami didn't want him. What we learned about Oakland is that, hey, if they run no huddle, they can make progress. But that's all I have to say about Oakland. And, hey, Janikowski, thanks again. Next game is a Sunday night game between two NFC North rivals, the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cincinnati Bengals. What we learned about the Steelers is that if you give them a chance to beat you, they will beat you. This team had no business beating the Bengals. Mike Wallace complaining about making a big money contract. The way you performed in that game, you're giving them a strong case as to why they won't give you that money. You dropped 2 catchable balls, 1 in the end zone. Antonio Brown is making you look like a fool. Heath Miller is definitely the man for the Steelers. And who's it? What was that running back's name? Or Javon Ringer? No, it can't be Ringer. He plays for the Tennessee Titans. Forgive me, Steelers fans. I can't name your other running back that was replacing Mendenhall right now, but he definitely had a great game. And when you have a running game that can get it going, much easier to win games. Cincinnati Bengals, you are the team that everybody says can beat the bad teams, but can't beat the good teams. And if you're going to be taken seriously, you need to beat the good teams. You're 1-11 against the Steelers and the Ravens last couple seasons. I mean, come on, son. How are y'all going to be taken seriously if you can't beat the heavyweights in your own division? We know you can beat the bad teams. Well, except for the Browns. You lost to them, but we know y'all can beat up on those teams, but it's the teams that everybody knows and everybody puts at a high caliber that you can't beat. So, I'm trying to figure out what the hell's going on with y'all, man. Y'all had that game. That game was yours to win, but y'all found a way to lose. Now you're going into the bye week with a sub-500 record. So, that's what we learned. We learned that you are as advertised. You're a bad team bully, but a good team loser. Final game of the Week 7 season is between the Detroit Lions visiting the Chicago Bears. And did I say NFC North? No, I said AFC North for the Steelers and Bengals. But this was an NFC North matchup. And what we learned about the Detroit Lions is that, hey, the Madden curse is real. Calvin Johnson got shut down by Peanut. Charles Tillman. 3 catches, 34 yards. Megatron, you just Calvin now. You're just Calvin. You got stripped of that title. The Bears seem to love playing against you. They punk you out. We learned that they really don't have an offense at this point. We learned that their defense is subpar. We learned that feared front defensive line is nothing. They're overrated. We learned that Matthew Stafford is not getting the ball out nicely like he did last season. We just learned that the Detroit Lions had a fluke season last season. I'm really starting to believe they had a fluke season last year, because they were 5-1 at this point in time last season. Now they're 2-4. Yuck. What we learned about the Chicago Bears is that they are a dangerous team. They are one of the dangerous teams in the NFC. And you got to look at the NFC pool. You have the New York Giants playing well. You have the Minnesota Vikings. You have the Chicago Bears. You have the 49ers. You have the Green Bay Packers that are getting back in the mix. You have the Atlanta Falcons. The NFC is the conference right now. And the Chicago Bears are definitely in that mix. Their defense is just playing outstanding. They shut down one of the most, if not the most feared receiver in the league. They made Matthew Stafford look just jabroni-like. And really that team is clicking at the right time. So, and then they get Alshon Jeffrey back. Sky's the limit for them. The NFC North is theirs for the taking. They just got to get past the Packers and they got to get past the Vikings, who they have yet to play. So, that'll do it for me in this What Have We Learned for Week 7. We learned that the NFC overall is the superior conference this year. We learned that the AFC is ripe for parity outside of the Houston Texans. And, yeah, that's all I got for Week 7. So, stay tuned as I will give you my quick pick for tomorrow's Thursday night matchup between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Minnesota Vikings. Until then, it's Adrian Mason signing off.